archaeologists. I'm the Johnstruct. Welcome to the proximity. I'm having a not for broadcast adventure, and I've got a bit. I can't. They're talking, so I can't talk. It's difficult. We're only getting started. That was two of me. Oh, I'll pour one out for Jeremy after the last episode. It is starting, that is true. Let's press the play button. We're on day 371. What a wild ride. Oh yeah, we have a new sound desk.
Asked me to ask you to keep it light.
What does that mean?
It means to do that thing you do where you turn politicians into humans. Just don't get drawn into talking about the war or politics in general. Really.
They do know this is the news, don't they?
You didn't hear this from me.
It's over to Patrick Bank for all the day's sports board highlights, including all the tabletop action.
Apparently, there's a crew at Team HQ right now. I think she's giving a speech or something tonight. They'll get it on the late news.
Oh, great. So they get the brains and we get the performing monkey.
Followed at 9:25 by our unsettling
Sometimes you sound just like him, you know.
which tells the cautionary tale
How
of
are
one
you?
brave young lady's battles to survive the cruel administrations of our neighbours.
It
At
is what it is.
11:25, it's in sizes.
It
And
is what it
tonight, Dr. Adrian Atkinson Blimey
I'm
will be
listening
getting
to
his
you now.
teeth into Fiona from Hamble Bamblebury, who has invented
10 seconds,
a tasty
everybody.
twist on the humble biscuit.
Fabulous.
And that takes us, after the weather and public information
Going in
film,
5,
to our close down.
4,
But first
3.
tonight, it's time to join Megan and the team for the National Night.
Good evening. This is the National Nightly News. I'm Megan Wolfe. It's the 140th day of war. Our main headlines tonight. Company of Heroes. Skirmishes on land and sea again today as our armed forces tested the mettle of the World Council's illegal blockade. Advance's strategy of multiple small-scale incursions into the disputed zone is certainly keeping the enemy on high alert, unable to work out where or when the next strike will come. Proud parents throughout the territory find themselves ever more impressed by the bravery and commitment of their incredible children and the job they're doing keeping supply lines open against all possible odds. Don't starve. Advance's food programme moved from strength to strength today as rationing depots were opened in the last remaining unfed areas of the territory. The rationing depots have been constructed in record time, and the government's agricultural coordination strategy has seen shelves restocked with increasing regularity. However, with a reported rise in mental and physical health issues since the imposition of the blockade, critics have questioned whether those smaller communities which are only now starting to receive help could have been better and quicker served. 7 days to die. The recent decision to allow those with long-term health conditions to access transition centres has today been declared an overwhelming success. Previously available only to those in their final years, the expansion of the service has been met with relief by the many organisations calling for it to be opened up to the wider community. With dwindling medical supplies leaving many of our most vulnerable facing chronic pain, it can come as no surprise that the transition centres have found themselves stretched to capacity.
What's this?
Populace. More than 11% of the population have thus far failed to register for a team membership card, a worrying statistic given that the cards are a legal requirement from midnight tonight. While applications are still open for those who like to run fashionably late, they can expect a few tricky questions from Advance. Start me up. Disrupt spokesman Alan James held an impromptu rally today in the northern city of Mankipool. Large crowds gathered to hear the band speaker prove Disrupt are still able to capture the public's imagination. A representative from the Mankipool Community Cohesion Team described the event as mostly peaceful, but it looks like Disrupt aren't going quietly into the night. And finally tonight, our mutual friend. Bail was denied in the High Court today for shamed former National Nightly News anchor Jeremy Donaldson. The presenter will be transferred to new lodgings at Penton Ridge Prison while the lengthy preparations for his trial, which is still 18 months away, begin. Following his very public breakdown on this programme 10 weeks ago, the once-loved presenter was disarmed and taken into custody by the Community Cohesion Team. Let's hope doctors can help the once great man. But first this evening, with the war about to enter its 21st punishing week and people hurting up and down the country, I'll be grilling unpredictable Prime Minister Peter Clement in an exclusive interview from his home in Lancashire. That's coming up on tonight's National Nightly News.
I like how this changes every time. Oh. Forgot what that alarm was for.
In part two, I'm a little overexcited to announce I'll be interviewing the one and only Lil C. And later we've got a new feature that's sure to keep you coming back for more. But first tonight, let's check in with Prime Minister Peter Clement, who's speaking to us from his home in Lancashire. Good evening, Prime Minister. Have we caught you exercising?
Have we started? Yes, that's right, Miss Wolf. Just a few minor adjustments. I mean, nothing drastic. I haven't joined the gym or anything. As my old mum used to say, just because she won't take it up the shit, it doesn't mean you shouldn't try for a quick fiddle up the car park.
Language, Prime Minister. Language, Prime Minister.
What? Quick fiddle? What's wrong? Oh, shitter. It's shitter, isn't it? Yep, that's the one.
And can you tell us what brought about this new year?
Well, you know, Mrs. C and I were watching, you know, the night the blockade began, when Jeremy Donaldson, well, you know, and it was blistering hot, as I'm sure you all remember, and I were a bit wheezy from all the cigars and all that, and Mrs. C turns to me after the signal dropped away, and she was in floods of tears. And she says, Peter, she said,
You let some of that disrupt propaganda out. Try not to do that, Alex. We're watching you.
and since that day...
I did really poorly then. I was trying to figure out what that was, and then I just didn't like pay attention to that. I might restart this. Sorry about that. I was just like miles away. I was just paying attention to the thing. Sorry about. I probably didn't even lose that many points.
Alex, Bozeman, your boss. We're expecting deplorables from Disrupt to hack the signal tonight. Perhaps you could leave your personal beliefs at home and try not to let them ruin the broadcast. Even if you don't care for the government, I assume you understand you have a vested interest in us staying on the air. Stay out of the orange.
You've asked me to ask you to keep it light.
What does that mean?
It means to do that thing you do where you turn politicians into humans. Just don't get drawn into talking about the war or
as we begin
politics
what
in
is only
general.
They do know this is the news, don't they?
At
You didn't
8:30
hear this from
p.m.
me,
It's
but-
over to Patrick Bannon for all the day's sports highlights, including all the tabletop action. from the
Apparently,
semi-finals
there's a crew
of
at Team
Pro
HQ
Amateur
right now.
Sports Board.
I
The
think she's
Sports
giving a
Board
speech.
I didn't. I was hoping it wouldn't go back as far, but never mind.
They get the brains and we get the performing monkey.
followed at 9:25 by our unsettling play,
Sometimes you sound just like him, you know.
which tells the cautionary tale
How
of
are
one
you?
brave young lady's battles to survive the cruel administrations of our neighbours.
It
At
is what it is.
11:25, it's in sizes. And
is what it
tonight, Dr. Adrian Atkinson Blimey
I'm
will be
listening
getting
to
his
you now.
teeth into Fiona from Hamble Bamblebury, who has
10
invented a
seconds,
tasty
everybody.
twist on the humble
Rumble
biscuit.
dogs,
And
so.
that takes us, after the weather and public information
Going in
film,
5,
into our close down.
4,
But first
3.
tonight, it's time to join Megan and the team for the National Night.
Good evening. This is the National Nightly News. I'm Megan Wolf. It's the 140th day of war. Our main headlines tonight. Company of heroes. Skirmishes on land and sea again today as our armed forces tested the mettle of the World Council's illegal blockade. Advance's strategy of multiple small-scale incursions into the disputed zone is certainly keeping the enemy on high alert, unable to work out where or when the next strike will come. Sadly, however, more casualties were reported today, and as the weeks and months of this war make ever more demands on our armed services, those numbers will, tragically, only continue to rise. Don't starve. Advance's food programme moved from strength to strength today as rationing depots were opened in the last remaining unfed areas of the territory. The rationing depots have been constructed in record time, and the government's agricultural coordination strategy has seen shelves restocked with increasing regularity. However, with the reported rise in mental and physical health issues since the imposition of the blockade, critics have questioned whether those smaller communities which are only now starting to receive help could have been better and quicker served. 7 days to die. The recent decision to allow those with long-term health conditions to access transition centres has today been declared an overwhelming success. Previously available only to those in their final years, the expansion of the service has been met with relief by the many organisations calling for it to be opened up to the wider community. With dwindling medical supplies leaving many of our most vulnerable facing chronic pain, it can come as no surprise that the transition centres have found themselves stretched to capacity. Populace. More than 11% of the population have thus far failed to register for a team membership card, a worrying statistic given that the cards are a legal requirement from midnight tonight. While applications are still open for those who like to run fashionably late, they can expect a few tricky questions from Advance. Start me up. Disrupt spokesman Alan James held an impromptu rally today in the northern city of Mankipool. Large crowds gathered to hear the band speaker prove Disrupt are still able to capture the public's imagination. Community cohesion officers found themselves challenged by the unruly mob element always present at Disrupt events, but thankfully managed to keep violent incidents to a minimum. And finally tonight, our mutual friend. Bail was denied in the High Court.
I don't necessarily know what these pictures represent.
The presenter will be transferred to new lodgings at Pension Ridge Prison, while the lengthy preparations for his trial, which is still 18 months away, begin. Following his very public breakdown on this programme 10 weeks ago, the once-loved presenter was disarmed and taken into custody by the community cohesion team. Let's hope doctors can help the once great man. But first this evening, with the war about to enter its 21st punishing week, and people hurting up and down the country, I'll be grilling unpredictable Prime Minister Peter Clement in an exclusive interview from his home in Lanfordshire. That's coming up on tonight's National Nightly News. I'm a little overexcited to announce I'll be interviewing the one and only Lil C. And later we've got a new feature that's sure to keep you coming back for more. But first tonight, let's check in with Prime Minister Peter Clement, who's speaking to us from...
Right, we've almost caught ourselves up. Sorry about that, 5 minutes.
Good evening, Prime Minister. Have we caught you exercising?
Have we started? Yes, that's right, Miss Wolf. Just a few minor adjustments. I mean, nothing drastic. I haven't joined the gym or anything. As my old mum used to say, just because she won't take it up the shit, it doesn't mean you shouldn't try for a quick fiddle up the car.
Language, Prime Minister. Language, Prime Minister.
What? Quick fiddle? What's wrong? Oh, shitter. It's shitter, isn't it? Yep, that's the one.
And can you tell us what brought about this new you?
Well, you know,
today, I spoke to the people of Mankipool.
Winston Donaldson. Well, you know,
Done in my old
and
life.
it was blistering hot, as I'm sure you all remember. And I were a bit wheezy from all the cigars and all that. And Mrs. C turns to me after the signal dropped away, and she was in floods of tears. And she says, Peter, she's dead. I couldn't go on without her. She's dead. So I made a decision. And since that day, I have stopped smoking cigars. Except for Christmas. My birthday. Weddings. State dinners. I swear I said, I can't as useless running backwards, does it?
Some of that disrupt propaganda out. Try not to do that, Alex. We're watching you.
Christmas, and that should finish me off for bloody good.
Did you make the decision to holiday within the country this winter because of the blockade, Prime Minister?
Well, Mrs. C has never liked travelling at the best of times. These are certainly not the best of times. On that we can all agree. There's a lot of red tape involved in leaving the territory at the moment, as I'm sure you're all aware. This form is a bastard long. All in it together. What? All in it together. Oh, yeah. Also, it doesn't seem very advanced to be going abroad when the rest of the country is grounded.
And yet, Julia Salisbury announced today that she'll be visiting Svenland during this year's winter break. Is that really an example of team spirit?
What? Did you know about this, Gail? Did you know
No one
about
tells
this?
me anything, Peter. You should know that. What did you know?
Well, leaving that for a moment, it says on this card that a body like yours must take some planning to achieve. What's your morning routine?
Well, I have a frigid morning routine.
Rigid. It's rigid for fuck's sake!
Oh, yeah. A rigid and demanding plan that my doctor and personal trainer
Who's your personal trainer?
some prick on. Is that on your card?
I thought you'd wonder. Prime Minister, speaking of planning, with the blockade in its 20th week and the people of this country reeling from its effects, what plans do you have to get us out of this mess?
Well, that's a very blunt
It's
question.
from the intro.
One for which you, the democratically elected Prime Minister, must have an answer.
Don't you get smart with me, Pat. I was a fucking national treasure before you were a twinkle in the milkman's scrotum. You want to talk about plans? Let me tell you about plans. That's all we do. Fucking plans and revised plans and then meetings to discuss the implementation of plans and plans and yet more planning for fucking plans and yet more fucking plans.
Well, that's good. That's good to know, Prime
You
Minister.
know,
That's good to
I
know.
used to really like you, Pat. You were a breath of fresh air. But I've been watching you, and you know what? You get more like him every day.
I will take that as a compliment. Prime Minister, later on this evening, your co-leader Julia Salisbury is going to give a national address from team headquarters.
Oh, I'm doing awful.
A hint of what she's going to say.
Yes. Well, I imagine that there
Sorry,
will be
you
the
imagine?
usual.
Sorry, you
No,
imagine?
what I mean is,
You do know about this broadcast, don't you, Prime Minister?
I'm sure I did. But Julia and I have no secrets from each other. We don't memorize each other's bloody diaries either. As my old mum used to say, if you wanted to get a job done quick, don't get bogged down in the pubes. What else you got?
Sorry?
Only cards, what else? A little piece of my life do you want to rustle through? Get out, refill my last. Come on. Come on.
Okay. What music do you listen to when you work out?
Well, Gail tells me that I work out to Little C, but I have absolutely no fucking idea who that is. And do you think the C stands for...
It stands for collaborative, Prime Minister.
Yeah, actually, that does make more sense, actually.
How's rationing affecting you?
It's hard, but we get by. You just have to learn to get by on the basics. Take comfort in each other. I've got Mrs. C and many a fine single malt. I want for nothing.
Except for a decent night's sleep, of course.
Prime Minister, thank you for joining us. When we come back, it's time for the culture spot with Lil C and a world.
Hello, singer. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Her new song.
Now, right now to that front.
We'll be back after this.
1
minute back, everybody.
I'm running the news. I am the news editor. It's a spinning plates game, so there's lots of distractions. I've got to make sure it runs with no issues. Like I choose all the adverts.
Embolism. Am I in trouble? Bozeman?
There's Bozeman. They're talking about him. He talks to me and gives me instructions.
Higher ups might fire him though.
But it's all satire.
If there's any justice, me.
Who's Lil C?
Are you winding me up?
What? I'm civilized. I read books.
So I did poorly then. We are on like week 300 or something. So now, because the new government's come in. Oh, I did, yes.
The new buttons during the next sections. First, we'll need applause when the guest enters and before her song. Don't worry, I'll walk you through it when we get there.
One is certain a preferable way exists.
And you'd be right. We've had our biggest and best brains working on this for months, and we've got you covered with the Remington's Fist Siege Survival Box. Inside every blockade-busting box, you'll find the things you really missed. A red wine where you can hardly taste the chemicals. Some rare meat we brew in our production laboratory. Chocolate so salty you'd believe it came from Svenland. The list of luxuries is endless. At least 7. And we've
I've never heard of her before.
Oh, she's big, really big.
One in every 100 boxes.
She any good?
Contain.
Nah, of course not. Dog shit. My kids go
Looks
mad
like they
for
just got
absolutely
lucky.
mad.
5 in 10 seconds.
Hang on, Colin, you've got kids.
Yeah, I've got about 6 or 7, I think.
You'll believe they were made somewhere else.
5, 4.
So I've got to switch it to 1. I've got buttons for these 4
Thanks
screens.
for coming back. Later, we have an exciting new feature that we just know you're going to love, so stay tuned for that. But first, I'm really excited for our next guest. She rose to prominence as the delightful Susie May in All My Daughter's Children's Men, before taking the music industry by storm this year with her debut album, smashing the chart records at the age of just 20. Let's give it up and welcome Lil C.
And I've got to keep moving it.
May I just say, you look...
So that's what's going out on the television.
Thanks, Dave. I'm doing this new regime and it really does work.
What's the regime?
My manager suggested it to me. It basically involves bathing in like cabbage water, then having the leaves sucked out of you while you sleep.
Wow, is that healthy?
Well, look at me, Meg. The leaves are my only nourishment.
Yep, they certainly are. Now, you'll have to forgive me, but I'm somewhat of a super fan, so I'm sorry if I get a bit starstruck.
Oh, bless you. I've never actually heard of you before, so if you do get a little tongue-tied, I can always carry the interview.
Oh, that's good to know. So your first album, F My Face Together, it hit shelves this summer and it just exploded. I mean, what was that like for you?
Bonkers, just so weird. I was in all the papers and the magazines. Overnight, I went from that like annoying little girl from that show to that like sexy little girl from that show.
Wow, that must have been bizarre.
Not really, it was just like any other morning, you know, get up at 5, go on a 4-mile run, have 3 meetings on my cabbage basket, then only then was my dad actually talking to me.
Oh, of course, I mean the famed country singer, Billy Bob Jeanshort. I didn't know you'd been estranged.
There's nothing that strange about it, Megan. Okay, yes, he may believe that aliens told him to hate women, but there really isn't anything to prove that he's wrong.
So, this newfound explosion to your popularity, I mean, did that change your life?
Well, I had to start wearing like nicer underwear, you know, for the paparazzi, but as my manager says, best to make the most of it before I'm 30.
Is that right? So, what's the album about?
So I thought it was about like how pretty and great I am, but actually it's about monetizing youth, I think, or about like promoting an unrealistic standard of beauty or something.
Your manager again?
Yeah, he says insecurity is an opportunity.
Oh, do you think he'd be happy with you telling us all this?
Telling you all what? It really doesn't matter what I say here. I'll do my dancing and then this part will all be forgotten about.
Oh. Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to see some of those famous dance moves very shortly because you're going to be performing your new single, aren't you?
Yeah, it's from my album Put It In My A Together and it's out. Put It In My A Together and
So there's somebody trying to hack.
Her 13-year-old son joined the Go-Getters. He's occupied now. Busy, even.
And a clothing line during
His room's never been tidier.
It's called Cry for Help and it's going to be in all the best high street and retailer shops and it's out now. So girlies, you know what to do. Scream and cry until somebody gets it for you.
Ooh. There she goes. Blimey. All these projects, they're keeping you very busy, aren't they? It must be tough.
Yeah, it can get tough and I hate it sometimes. I hate myself. I just want to like cry into a bath of root veg. But then I think thousands of girls would do anything to be me, so I must be quite lucky.
Well, you know you don't have to do this, though, don't you?
Yeah, I do think that sometimes. Most nights between like my 4th vodka and the 8th time a stranger slaps me around the arse. I think things could have been different. You know, like
I've got to mute. swearing as well.
I love doing autographs and having somebody dress me and tell me what to wear.
Did you always want to do music?
Well, ever since I was a little girl, I'd sit in front of the radio, and as soon as my favourite girl group would come on, I'd press record on my cassette, but then my dad would come in and tell me to turn it off and to go back upstairs and start practicing again.
Sorry, is your dad your manager?
Yeah, which can be tough, and sometimes when it gets really hard, he'll say, "Make Quagler proud and you might just survive childbirth."
Well, you know what, despite anything, you'll make me proud.
Oh, if only your opinion was as valuable as his.
And on that problematic note, you're going to be singing your song for us soon, aren't you? Tell me about it.
So it's called These Babies Gonna Bring You Home, and I actually got sent the lyrics in the car on the way up here. But you know what? It's actually all right. And don't worry, all my work is team approved.
All right then. Well, you can go and get ready for that. We'll see you in a little bit. It was a very specific type of pleasure to chat to her, and I just can't wait to hear this. Whoa, so here is your scene with an exclusive first performance of her new track, These Babies Gonna Bring You Home. Take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Force's favorite, the Queen of Team, here to break in your blockades, Lil C.
Then you got to do it to the music.
Oh baby, can't you see I'm hungry? There's a place in me that's empty. I want that meat you're packing. Only you can fill that crack in me. I'm under siege, so come and free me. Ain't no disruption here, boy, I got no agenda. Just want the team and me, nobody foreign member. Don't stop one morning drill, there's holes in me that ain't been filled yet. I only scream this loud when you do your country proud. I ain't no vicar's daughter, common skirmish on my border. Quick before I get much older, tie me down and pull me like an enemy soldier. An enemy soldier. So let them try and break our dream. We fight and love and die at two. So what a Peter Clemens boys can come and use me as a toy. I wanna see some action, so come and break my sanctions. I've been this wild and free since my mom burdened me. She was only 53, but gave to save her family. There's no one judging me if I'm the one that's in your fantasy. Don't die alone, these babies gonna bring you home. I ain't no vicar's daughter, come and skirmish on my border. Quick before I get much older, tie me down and pull me like an enemy soldier. An enemy soldier.
Yes.
So what if Peter Clemens boys can come and use me as a toy and flip me over, grab my hair, rip off my clothes.
I can.
I wanna see some action, so come and break my sanctions.
So I have no idea what's going on in here because I have to concentrate on this corner. Like over here, I'm doing this. It's flashing and I'm trying to keep it. It wasn't times 8 for ages. I didn't do very good at it.
If that doesn't distract you from the world outside, I don't know what will. I'd like to thank Lil C for doing that. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll finally be revealing the new segment of our show that we just know you're going to love. We'll be back right after this.
And we're out.
Can I just say, Thank you so much for letting me do this. It really means a lot to me, you know.
Yeah.
To be able to promote myself on such a mainstream platform like the news.
Well, don't worry about it. And you know what? Good luck for the future. Take care of yourself. This industry can be crazy sometimes. Watch out for that father of yours, won't you?
Oh, no. I manage myself. It's just, you know, for the public to have that certain perspective on me. You know what it's like.
Oh, right.
And Michael? Michael?
What about Billy Bob Jeanshaw? Is he?
Oh, my dad. He's such a sweetheart. We both had the same agents, you know, like it just made sense. Both of us for our image together.
Wow.
And Michael, I want to see the revenue share for the clothing line and get me a G&T before my meeting with the lube guys. If they say for your pleasure, I'm going to start needing it.
I hate to tell you this, but you're going to need all 4 sound effects buttons for this next section. Try and pick the most appropriate sound effect for the actors' lines. They can't hear your choices, so they'll be assuming you're helping things along and not making them look ridiculous. Mind you, after the last section, God help us all. Try and do better.
No, not
So
anymore.
this advert just gets every time this advert comes on. It's a little bit more insane.
Feels like 12. Got it?
Absolutely, right away. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3.
Thanks for joining us for part 3. We've been teasing you about our new feature all night, and now the wait is finally over. I can reveal that every night on the show we'll be treated to an episode of an informative and hilarious new segment called The Notice Board. It stars some top talent and we're very excited about it. But before we see it, let's have a quick chat with the writer, director and phenomenon, may I say, Jeff Algebra, guys.
Actually, I've dropped the algebra. I go by Jeff DePoon now. How'd you like that?
Well, yeah, very fancy. I suppose you need a new name now that you're a successful artiste.
Well, exactly. I'm earning enough to pay taxes now.
Oh.
It's shit.
And how does Angela feel about all this?
Who?
Your wife.
Oh, God, no. No. No, she's long gone. No, she was holding me back. I'm with Norm now. We were married last month.
Norm de Plume.
Yeah.
And why did you write this? What was your inspiration?
Oh, well, I received a telephone call offering me 25 grand to write a pro-team sitcom. And I heard my father's voice. It said, Jeff, you listen here, boy. You make hay while the sun shines. You wring every penny you can get out of this. So I wheeled him down to the transition centre, got out my typewriter and started clacking. Wow. Utter shite.
And without further ado, let's give it up for the notice board.
Surely you're not this stupid, Alex. That's much better. Keep going like that and you'll do fine.
Good morning, Miss Craven.
Oh, morning, Ray.
Everything all right, Mrs. Craven? You look as worried as the vicar in closing time.
Oh, Ray, it's those young louts. They've vandalised my shop again.
No!
Yes! They've written all sorts of obscene language and crude pictures, and I know it's those damn youths.
I don't know. It could be the vicar at closing time.
I'm just worried they won't ever become productive members of the community. What if they never see the error of their ways and end up as social outcasts, such as shoplifters or bong rats?
Don't worry, Mrs. Craven. This is a very supportive community, and I'm sure that in time they will fit into this society like this key into this lock. See? Works like a charm.
What a nice lovely way to put it, Ray. And just like that, we can unlock their future.
Yes, yes. Wow! Look at all the letters in my collection today.
Oh! I think that one's addressed to me.
What? This one? Oh, so you're right. Here it is.
Oh, it's a letter from my granddaughter, Brenda. She says she got an A on her maths exam because one of her friends has been helping her. She was always a team player, was our Brenda.
What's up, losers? Hey.
Oh, no! It's Brad. He's the coolest guy in the village.
That's right. I just got here on my motorbike.
Oh, clear off, Brad. We don't want any of your ilk around here.
What? Rad dudes?
No, ruffians. Have you come to tag the notice board with your gang signs?
No way. I've actually come to pin my resume on that notice board. I'm looking to do some tutoring after school.
What? Did you say tutoring?
That's right. Maths is very important. Would you mind, Ray?
Not at all.
So you, a young person, have been spending your time helping others and not just urinating on churches or huffing glue?
Hey, I haven't huffed glue for months.
Well, blow me down!
You know what? We misjudged you based on how young and cool you are and not on your actions.
No doy.
So it wasn't you who vandalised my shop last night or called me a rancid old crone from the back of a chopper?
No way. It can't have been me. I was too busy helping my friend Brenda with her maths homework.
Could you speak up there? I thought for a minute there that you said Brenda.
I did, you daft old sow.
Did you hear that, Ray?
Oh, yes, what a wonderful surprise. I now respect you as a man.
Put her there, Ray. Oh, what the heck? Give us a hug.
I hope this doesn't affect my pay. Oh dear.
Sorry to interrupt the first groundbreaking episode of the notice board, but we are receiving some breaking news. I'm being told we are picking up reports from across the continent of what appear to be nuclear explosions in 4 major foreign cities. Initial estimates put the death toll into they put them into millions. I'm being told we're experiencing some power shortages as a result, so apologies for the interruption. And apparently we can go live now to team headquarters for an emergency broadcast from Prime Minister Julia Salisbury any moment. Yes, let's go to that now.
Good evening, citizens and leaders of the world. Minutes ago, operatives working for Advance detonated nuclear explosives simultaneously in 4 major cities across the continent. We have similar devices in 58 other urban centres and will not hesitate to detonate them if our conditions are not met.
We are hearing stories of power fluctuations and what could be minor earthquakes throughout the continent. Stand by.
Tolerate your illegal, and you are to remove it immediately. We will accept nothing less than your unconditional surrender. Your under our control. We will install replacement government to ensure that your citizens become part of the new future. Your borders are now our borders. Your people are our people. They will finally be fed and clothed and educated and healed. But for your privileged few, the moment that they feared is now upon them. Allow me to be crystal clear. If you fire a single shot at our territory or harm a single one of our citizens, we will not hesitate to detonate further devices. You will not find them, though no doubt you are already searching for them. Our technology is decades ahead of yours. We will expect your complete acceptance of our terms by midnight tonight. Thank you.
I don't really talk about my personal life in my job.
So it seems you get points if you pick any of them.
Or important. So many of you may be surprised to learn that I have a brother. His name is David. And right now I can't get his stupid face out of my head. He's a researcher and he's currently travelling the continent for work. And I don't know where he is right now. And I should imagine that there are many of you sitting at home tonight digesting this news, and you also have loved ones on the continent. In Urkistan, or Havia, or San Palmerino, or Konislav.
Oh shit, I do as well.
Was when I last spoke to him 3 days ago. So when I tell you I know how you are feeling tonight, believe me, I do. But I also know that there's a flow to events. I see it every day here. I know that although tonight it feels
The daughter's
like
in
we're
Urkistan,
living
or one of the
and darkness,
countries.
we may actually be at the break of a new dawn. We don't know that yet. We can't know that yet. But together we will find out. And I will be here every night, feeling what you are feeling. And with your help, maybe we can all get to that brave new world. My name's Megan Wolf. Let's make tomorrow better.
And we're out. We've got people ringing around, but the telephone networks are overloaded.
Okay.
We'll find him.
Do we know exactly which cities were hit, or?
Megan. We will find him.
Okay, let's continue. Yeah, so like that time, it didn't matter that it was Alex James. He was obviously actually in the right that time, obviously. The rest of your shift passes in a blur with the same words going around around in your head. Operatives working for advanced detonated nuclear explosives. Initial estimates put the death toll into millions. Did this really happen? Pull into the driveway with no memory of the journey home. The light in front room is on. Clearly someone is still awake. Door creaks open into the living room. You find Sam sitting on the sofa staring at the TV. The screen's off. They've clearly lost and fought. Take a seat beside them and put a reassuring hand on their shoulder. They don't look at you, but they do reach up, take your hand in theirs. Now that you're close, you can see tears flowing freely down Sam's face. Oh, little girl. I know, I don't know what to do. The hell can we do? The bastards killed Susie, millions of others, all because of their fucking war, which we never asked for. Behind the tears you see a fire of your fury that you've never seen Sam before. I hate them, Alex. I know you've never been a fan of advance, but after this, they're monsters. I don't know, right at the very beginning. But yes, obviously, literally murdering millions of people is a line. Quite, including, yes, I need to know that you understand that. I'm assuming a lot of this you can't actually change. She was always going to go on holiday, and the son was always going to join the weekend group. We need to know that you understand that we can't be indifferent. Nothing can justify what they did, and anyone who tries is just as bad as they are. Relief spread across Sam's face like a wave, claps against you, clutching tightly. Clearly this was weighing heavily on them. You're not sure how you've even processed it all fully yet, but at least you'll get through it together. Last week has passed in a blur. Rush of things to do, but all immediately forgotten. Your memory is clouded by dark fog. 9 days since the so-called Liberation Night, beginning of Advance's new future. You weren't the first ones at the church today. You were staggered by the number of people coming to mourn with you. Everyone here for the same reason, sharing the same pain, the same sense of loss. It's written all over the faces, much as it would be on yours. You step away from everyone else, needing space to gather your thoughts. Your daughter, poor little Susie, gone. Sam has said little since that evening. They're still getting over the shock, but when you walk over to squeeze their hand, they squeeze back tightly. You'll get through this together. You can only imagine how awful it would be to face this alone. There hadn't even been a coffin to bury. Oh wow. An academic exodus. It's a seemingly ordinary morning, but you get into work, you find a small crowd gathered in the break room. When you go in to grab your first cup of tea of the day, you can't help but overhear some excited chatter. You didn't hear, there's another one gone missing. What does that bring the total up to now? I should think over 100 at this point. They won't all have been reported or noticed yet. Sorry, what's going on? An excited young woman turns to you and begins to explain. Another professor went missing from the Queensview University with all the other disappearances over the last year. Scientists, doctors, researchers. She pauses before lowering her voice to a whisper. It's clearly disrupt, targeting people speaking out against them. Heard Advance struggling to prevent further. A deep, familiar voice from behind you interrupts. What exactly is going on here? Silent overtakes the room as you all turn in unison toward the doorway. Boseman clears his voice before continuing. Told you before, I don't want to hear about these so-called disappearances. Now come on people, Advance has been very clear that they're nothing to worry about. Which means they're not a problem, and unless they start classing cappuccinos as intellectual, I don't think anyone here has anything to worry about. Best get back to work. Boseman holds up a hand to keep you as everyone else files out the room. Look, I know you have a habit of doing what you want, but things are different now. Advance runs the show and they've made their feelings clear, so now I'm doing the same. Channel 1's official position is to the government as things well in hand, nothing more, nothing less. I trust that I won't be hearing about this talk again. Gives you a curt nod before leaving. It seems like for better or worse, public ownership is now in full swing. Career in the making. You drum your fingers against the steering wheel impatiently as you wait for Charlie again. It's great that he's enjoying the cohesion cadets. And he's so enthusiastic, but doesn't even need to stay behind every week to help. It's your Saturday evening as well. Finally you see him exit the hall, grin on his face. Can't help but smile back. Frustration is starting to fade as you see him so genuinely happy. To hugging his friends today, Charlie leads over to the car. Gets in, his face flushed with excitement. How was? You're interrupted as he can't contain himself anymore. Guess what? What? You play along with a smile. Obviously, Cohesion Cadets started to point to becoming a CCO. Oh, God. So we get a head start when applying for that. Charlie Gush is clearly clean on explaining his news, almost tripping over the words in the efforts to tell you. Apparently, from the next year, the top 5% of cadets will be taken to a special program to become CCMs, Community Cohesion Managers. And I guess who's going to be in it? Beams at you. I see. And what exactly do these community... I have to... starting to be less supportive now. What do they do? Well, basically, they need a new liaison team between regular people, the CCOs, and the Betterment Department. And that'll be us. People will come to us with concerns and we'll decide whether they need withdrawals or which department. Sounds cool, right? So you're going to be helping people report on their friends and neighbours? Well, yeah, I guess. But only bad people. It's only helping the community, making it safe for everyone. Charlie Franzi, you don't like the CCOs or the Betterment teams? I'm just worried about them having that much power and turning people against each other. Yeah, it's like real weird Nazi shit going on now. You're starting to sound like the people at Advance trying to help. Charlie looks at you with a serious expression on his face. Don't worry, make sure that everyone gets the support they need. This is a good thing for the community and the team will be able to help everyone. He nods to himself and sits back in his seat. The mood in the car is somewhat icy for the rest of the journey home. You know, hope it's not a sign of where things are going. Spark to light the flames. You're surprised to find Sam in bed next to you when you wake up. You must have got in very late last night from drinks with the folks at school. Decided to let them sleep in and enjoy a lazy Sunday morning. The house quiet. You decide to bring some breakfast into the living room to watch TV while you eat. This is breaking news. Reports coming from across the country. The large swathes farmland went up in flames last night as part of what the authorities are calling the heinous and well-planned act of terrorism by the group known as Disrupt. You drop your spoon back into the porridge and turn up the volume. In addition to food stores, which government sources have said will put a strain on universal menu centres everywhere, a number of CCO and civic buildings were targeted last night's attack. According to Prime Minister Julia Salisbury, specific prisons and re-education betterment facilities were raided. A small selection of problematic and potentially dangerous individuals were forcibly extracted from lawful custody. Jeremy! You hold your breath waiting to hear if anyone got hurt. Unfortunately, it appears the CCOs were ill-prepared for an event like this. Disrupt seemed like much more effective, well-organised in comparison. While most of the targeted locations were thankfully empty of people, given the lateness of the hour, the betterment centres were fully staffed when they came under the attack. 17 CCOs and 4 administrative staff lost their lives as a result of the brutal actions of Disrupt last night. Countless more injured, many seriously rushed to the hospital. Few Disrupt members were captured during the conflicts. The vast majority seem to have evaded. As our son died as well. More on the story as it develops. You turn off the TV. Oh no, Charlie's fine. You're interrupted by Charlie walking into the living room, bleary-eyed and with a piece of toast. Anything interesting going on? He just into the TV. Mutely, you leave the news on as they cycle through the story again. Charlie watches in hushed silence. By the end of the podcast, they're doubling up the night of fire. I think it's going to be okay, right? I hope so. We'll have to see.